She stood up at the head of the table, wine glass in hand, and smiled at me like she'd already won. "I've spoken with the lawyers," my stepmother announced to my entire family, "and I've made the decision to remove Jessica from the will permanently." My cousins gasped. My uncle dropped his fork. My father just sat there, silent. But here's the thing. She thought she had all the power. She thought I'd cry and run out of the room like I always did. But not tonight. Because I had a manila envelope in my purse that was about to destroy her entire world. Before we continue, if you love dramatic true stories like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. My name is Jessica. I'm 26 years old, and I grew up in a quiet suburb outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. For the first 11 years of my life, things were close to perfect. My mom and dad loved each other deeply. We had Sunday pancake breakfasts, movie nights on Fridays. We were that family on the block everyone thought had it all figured out. Then my mom got sick. Ovarian cancer. Stage 3. She fought for 14 months before God called her home. I was 12 years old when I held her hand for the last time. I remember her whispering, "Take care of your daddy for me, baby." I promised her I would. And I tried. I really tried. But grief does terrible things to people. My dad, a successful real estate developer, buried himself in his work. He stopped eating dinner with me, stopped coming to my school events. He was physically there, but emotionally gone. I understood. He was broken. We both were. Then, about 2 years after Mom passed, he met her. Linda. She was a receptionist at one of his commercial properties. Blonde hair, big smile, 15 years younger than him. She swept in like a tornado wrapped in perfume and sweet talk. Within 6 months, she'd moved into our house. Within a year, she had a ring on her finger. I wanted to be happy for my dad. I really did. But something about Linda never sat right with me. She was too polished, too rehearsed. Every compliment she gave felt like a performance. She'd hug me in front of my dad and call me sweetie, but the second he left the room, she'd look right through me like I was furniture. By the time I was 16, the mask started slipping. Linda began redecorating the house, and by redecorating, I mean erasing my mother. Mom's photos came down. Her favorite quilt disappeared from the living room. Even the garden Mom planted in the backyard was ripped out and replaced with a stone patio. When I confronted her, she tilted her head and said, "Honey, we need to move forward. Holding on to the past isn't healthy." I went to my dad. He told me Linda was just trying to make the house feel like her home too. He asked me to be patient. So I swallowed my anger. Again, and again, and again. By the time I graduated high school, I couldn't wait to leave. I got into UNC on a partial scholarship and worked 2 jobs to cover the rest. Linda convinced my dad that paying for my college would spoil me. So while she drove a brand new Lexus and took spa weekends in Asheville, I ate ramen 5 nights a week and studied under flickering dorm lights. But I made it. I graduated, got a job in marketing, built a life for myself from nothing. I thought the worst was behind me. Then my dad's health started declining. Diabetes complications. A minor stroke. He was only 58, but his body was failing. And suddenly, Linda became very interested in his estate plan. That's when the family dinners started again. Linda insisted on hosting them every month, Thanksgiving style, full production. I thought maybe she was trying to bring the family together. I had no idea she was actually building a stage for my public humiliation. The dinner was in late October. Leaves turning gold outside. The whole family was there, my dad's brother, Uncle Ron, his wife Patty, my cousins Marcus and Danielle, even my grandmother on my dad's side, Nana Ruth, who was 83 and sharp as a tack. Linda had gone all out. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, fresh rolls, 3 kinds of pie. Candles on the table. Music playing softly in the background. It looked like a magazine spread. But I felt something in the air the moment I walked through the door. A tension. A smugness in the way Linda greeted me. "Jessica, sweetheart. So glad you could make it." She hugged me just a beat too long. Her perfume was suffocating. My dad was at the table already. He looked thinner than the last time I'd seen him. His eyes were tired. He smiled at me, but it didn't reach his cheeks. My heart broke a little. Dinner started normally enough. Small talk, compliments on the food, Marcus cracking jokes, Nana Ruth telling the same story about Grandpa's fishing trips she always told. It almost felt warm. Then, between the main course and dessert, Linda stood up. She clinked her glass with a fork like she was giving a toast at a wedding. Everyone went quiet. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," she said, her voice dripping with rehearsed sincerity. "Family is everything to me, which is why I feel it's important to be transparent about something." My stomach dropped. I didn't know what was coming, but my body did. She looked directly at me. "As many of you know, Richard's health has required us to revisit some important legal matters. After a lot of thought and prayer," she actually said prayer, "we've decided to simplify the estate plan. Going forward, everything will be consolidated under my name as surviving spouse. And," she paused, took a breath, smiled, "Jessica will no longer be listed as a beneficiary." The room went dead silent. I looked at my father. He was staring at his plate. He wouldn't look at me. His hands were trembling slightly around his napkin. I could tell he hadn't wanted this. She had pushed him, manipulated him, worn him down the way she always did. Uncle Ron shifted uncomfortably. Nana Ruth's jaw tightened. Danielle whispered, "Oh my God," under her breath. And Linda? She just stood there glowing, like she'd won a trophy. "It's nothing personal, Jessica," she continued, her voice sickeningly gentle. "You're a strong, independent woman. You don't need it. This is just what's best for the family." The family. She meant herself. She always meant herself. Something snapped inside me. Not loud, not violent. It was quiet, like a wire pulled too tight for too long finally giving way. I excused myself from the table, went to the bathroom, locked the door, sat on the edge of the tub and stared at the wall. Humiliated, devastated, betrayed, not just by Linda, but by my own father, who sat there and let it happen. Who didn't say a single word in my defense. Who chose her comfort over his daughter. But then I thought about my purse, sitting under my chair in the dining room, and the manila envelope inside it. See, 2 weeks earlier, I'd gotten a call from a woman named Cheryl. She worked as an office manager at a property management firm downtown. She told me she'd been having an affair with a man she met at a conference, and that man's wife had recently started threatening her. That wife was Linda. And that man? He wasn't my father. Linda had been seeing someone else. For over a year. A contractor named Dale who worked on one of my father's properties. Cheryl had found out because Dale had drunkenly confessed everything. And when Cheryl Googled Linda out of curiosity, she found me on social media and decided I deserved to know the truth. She sent me everything. Texts, photos, a hotel receipt from a weekend Linda told my dad she was visiting her sister in Raleigh. I had it all. Every piece of evidence. Right there in that envelope. I washed my face, straightened my shoulders, looked at myself in the mirror, and I whispered, "Okay, Linda. You want to play family games? Let's play." I walked back to that dining room table with my head held high and my hand on the envelope. Every eye in the room followed me as I sat back down. Linda was mid-sentence, explaining something about financial responsibility to Uncle Ron, who looked like he wanted to flip the table. She stopped talking when she noticed the envelope in my hands. "What's that?" she asked. Her smile flickered, just for a second, but I caught it. "Well, Linda," I said, keeping my voice calm and steady, "since tonight is apparently about transparency and doing what's best for the family, I figured I should be transparent too." I opened the envelope slowly, deliberately. I wanted her to feel every single second. About 2 weeks ago, I received some very interesting information from a woman named Cheryl. I watched Linda's face. The color drained from it like someone had pulled a plug. Her lips parted. Her wine glass tilted slightly in her hand. "Cheryl told me about a man named Dale. A contractor. Someone you've been seeing behind my father's back for over a year." Gasps around the table. Nana Ruth put her hand over her heart. Uncle Ron leaned forward. My father, my poor, tired, beaten down father, slowly lifted his head and looked at Linda for the first time all evening. That's ridiculous, Linda stammered. That's an absolute lie. I don't even know anyone named. I pulled out the first photo. Linda and Dale at a restaurant, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder, laughing, looking at him the way she never once looked at my father. I set it on the table. Then came the second photo. The two of them walking into a hotel in Raleigh. The same weekend she claimed she was visiting her sister. I set that one down too. Then the hotel receipt. Then the screenshots of text messages, the kind of messages that leave absolutely no room for interpretation. Words I won't repeat here, but words that made Danielle cover her mouth and Marcus push back from the table in disgust. You want to cut me out of this family? I said, my voice finally breaking. Not from weakness, from years of held-back fury. You? The woman who erased my mother from this house? Who manipulated my father when he was grieving? Who isolated him from his own daughter? And on top of all that, you couldn't even be faithful to him. Linda's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. She looked at my father desperately. Richard, let me explain. She's twisting things. This is taken out of context. But my father wasn't listening to her anymore. He looked at the photos. He looked at the texts. And then he looked at Linda with an expression I had never seen on his face before. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity. Like a fog had finally lifted after years of confusion. Get out of my house, he said quietly. Richard, please. Get out of my house. Nana Ruth stood up, walked over to my father, and put her hand on his shoulder. Uncle Ron nodded slowly. The whole family, the real family, closed ranks around my dad like a wall. Linda grabbed her coat and her keys. She looked at me one last time, fury and humiliation burning behind her eyes. But she didn't say a word. She just left. The front door slammed, and for the first time in years, the house felt like it could breathe again. My father filed for divorce the following week. His lawyer reversed every change Linda had made to the estate. She got nothing. Dale, as it turned out, wanted nothing to do with her once the money disappeared. She moved out of state. Last I heard, she was renting a one-bedroom apartment and working at a call center. My dad and I aren't fully healed. Years of silence and manipulation left scars that don't vanish overnight. But we're talking again. Really talking. Last Sunday, he made pancakes for the first time in 14 years. And that was the day I finally understood. Karma always finds its way back.